1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Assalamu alaikum. Hello. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everybody. Khosh amdeed. Muazzez Khawateen or Asrat, Bachoo students, honorable guest diplomats, dignitaries, friends, students, thank you so much for joining us. This session today is here as an international conference on quality and ethical reporting on child labor. Since it is international, we're going to have an English approach. It will be English और थोड़ी सी उर्दू भी जबको सबको समझ सकते हैं क्योंकि मुझे पता है कि कुछ लोग हैं जो कि शायद अंग्रेजी इतनी नहीं आता है तो हम लोग will be inclusive and we'll try to be as fair as possible. Ji. To start with, we would like to call for tilawat, please.
الله الرحمن الرحيم
يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا وآتوا اليتامى أموالهم ولا تتبدلوا الخبيث بالطيب ولا تأكلوا أموالهم إلى أموالكم إنه كان حوبا كبيرا ولا الضالين.
I request distinguished guests to please stand up for the national anthem of Pakistan. Thank you so much. We would like to call Mr. Thomas Stenstrom, Officer in Charge, International Labour Organization Office for Pakistan, for opening remarks, please.
Honorable Dr. Ashram Iqbal, Federal Minister of Planning, Development and Special Initiatives, Government of Pakistan. Honorable Mr. Mohammed Bishak, Joint Secretary, Minister of Overseas Pakistanis and HRD. Ms. Sarah Cooper, Group Head, Governance and Open Societies, Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. Dr. Rachel Chappell, DG South Asia Initiative to End Violence Against Children, SAIVAC, member of the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child. Honorable Ms. Afshan Tessin, Chairperson, National Commission on the Rights of the Child, NCRC. Ms. Christine Chang, UN Office of the High Commission for Human Rights, Team Leader, South Asia, Pakistan and Kashmir. Mr. Aoun Sai, Director, PTV News, World and Senior Journalist. Ms. Naila Jamil, Artist and Human Rights Activist. Representatives from governments, organizations, representatives from development partners, civil society, academia, and media. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. It is my privilege to welcome you all to this international conference on ethical and quality reporting on child labor. It is important to acknowledge the important role that journalists can play to tackle the scourge of child labor. Journalists can inform our societies on the prevalence of labor exploitation of children, expose economic wrongdoing, and raise awareness on concrete steps that can be taken to prevent child labor or support survivors. In the framework of ethical and quality reporting on child labor for Pakistan, the media professionals have been introduced to a number of different issues, including international labor standards, relevant national and subnational laws and policies, ethical, evidence-based and quality reporting, or child-related information, or collecting testimonies from vulnerable sources of information. Funded by the Foreign Commonwealth of Development and the Development Office, FCDU, the ILO Asia Regional Child Labor, ARC project, aims to reduce the vulnerability of child labor and enhance the protection of children against various forms of exploitation. I take this opportunity to acknowledge FCDU for the kind support for implementing this important ARC project. I also congratulate Group Development Pakistan upon successfully completion of the training to media professionals from across Pakistan. I highly commend all the media professionals, especially from Baluchistan, who despite heavy rains and floods, actively participated in the training, which demonstrated their high level of commitment. Ladies and gentlemen, all children have the right to be protected from child labor. However, global estimates indicate that around 160 million children aged 5 to 17 are engaged in child labor in 2020, of which 79 million are in hazardous work. Many children in Pakistan are working to contribute to the meager family income. Attending school, playing with other children, or reading a book may remain a distant dream for many Pakistani children. The recent child labor survey in Punjab estimated 13.4% of the children aged 5 to 14 years and 39.8% of the adolescents aged 15 to 17 engaged in child labor. Similarly, the child labor survey in Gilgit-Baltistan estimated 13.1% of the children aged 5 to 17 engaged in child labor. The survey is ongoing in other provinces and will generate updated and accurate evidence of for programming and policies. Ladies and gentlemen, ILO is the oldest agency of the United Nations, established in 1919, and the ILO brings together governments, employers, and workers of 187 member states to set labor standards, develop policies, devise programs, and to promote decent work for all women and men. It is encouraging to witness that the government of Pakistan has ratified all 8 fundamental conventions of the ILO, including the 2 most important conventions relating to child labor. Pakistan-related Convention 182, the worst forms of child labor, in 2001, and Convention 138, minimum age for employment, in 2006, and enacted national subnational legislation prohibiting employment of children in general and hazardous work in particular. Finally, the ARC project commissioned a rapid assessment relating to child labor in domestic work, waste picking, and auto mechanic workshops, which emphasize the need for awareness raising and advocacy at all levels. We are confident that media, with its extensive outreach in all regions of Pakistan, will play a catalyst role in mobilizing duty bearers, educating and influencing the attitude of the masses, and advocating for prevention and elimination of child labor in Pakistan. Thank you for your attention, and we look forward to a joint accelerated effort toward combating child labor in Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It's very important to see the synergies and the effort that ILO has put up through with the support of FCDO to actually make a change with crucial stakeholders such as the Pakistani media. I would like now to present very quickly to you the overall project that we're talking about through a very short, I promise, and not boring PowerPoint presentation. Mais jaldi kar lungi, mais wada kar lungi. As soon as it comes in. Hopefully soon. Maybe we could have a little clap for the technical team at the back, the technological team, to encourage them. Because every time there is this kind of conference, you know, they're under a lot of pressure. We don't want any technical glitch. We want it smooth. So hopefully it llega. So anyhow, with that PowerPoint presentation, we're still going to start. And basically, this project was about building the capacities of Pakistani media on ensuring that they would be able to perform quality and ethical reporting on child labor. Next. That was implemented by Group Development Pakistan, who is a Pakistani child rights organization registered under the Societies Registration Act 1860. And basically for GDP, child labor is considered as a form of child abuse. And GDP focuses on, within the area of child rights, they do focus on three main areas. One is child protection, the other one is gender equality, and then justice with children, which means ensuring that children in conflict or in contact with the law access justice. Next. Why this project? Overall, because Pakistan any mulk any country, we know that in order to understand an issue, one of the key stakeholders will be the media. They are the ones who have a powerful voice and who are actually able to raise the voices of the ones who would not necessarily access certain forums. We also relied on a need assessment, which highlighted the need for media to be trained not only on how to report, but also which kind of resources to access also to be able to publish those stories. What kind of safety measures could media avail in order to do that job safely? And also, when you report a story, what kind of safeguarding standards would have to be followed to ensure that at each stage of that reporting process, the best interest of the child prevails? So these were identified areas that were addressed through this project. Next. Next slide, G. So objective, basically to clarify the concept of those media people, also to enhance their skills and knowledge about reporting about child labor, but also foster a child rights perspective, because sometimes you can report and you don't necessarily think of that lens to articulate your story. So this was also to organize a paradigm shift, which would be child rights focus within the overall media landscape when we were going to report about child labor. And of course, facilitate the development of networks, synergies between media professionals, develop possibly a kind of in-house mentoring, and I can assure you this is already started, so that whatever this project has actually managed to build within those media would be sustained and even multiplied for other possible journalists, and I would say for the younger generations, as you will see. Another aspect was also, of course, because of that voice being raised, to create a stronger political and social buy-in to actually address child labor in an adequate manner and eventually achieve SDG 8.7. Next. What kind of activities were taken there? We basically adjusted an already existing training manual. We delivered, those training to the media staff. Then we mentored those people. Then a media competition was organized, and the conference is here to basically share, perceptions, but also not only results, but ideas and suggestions that could also build the way forward after that project. Next. Next. The methodology. What is very important to remember is that because we adjusted the training manual, that project followed Jacobson methodology. Matlab ke, when we had a manual, what we asked ourselves was, who are we training, in which language, within which contextual and anthropological framework, what vector are we going to use, and who is the end receiver of that training? And that is called cognitive communication. And that basically ensures that you're not delivering training for the sake of delivering training, but you are actually creating a behavioral change and I would say an adhesion, so that people who have adhered to that new concept and ideas are equipped and empowered to indigenously translate that into a different type of media reporting. तो हमारी फख्र है कि हम लोग सिर्फ न्यूयॉर्क से चीज नहीं लेते, वगैरह वगैरह, जो प्रोडक्ट है, जो ट्रेनिंग है, जो अप्रोच है, हमारे इंडिजिनस अप्रोच है, पाकिस्तानी रेफरेंस के, पाकिस्तानी रिवाज और वैल्यूज के मुताबिक पे पाकिस्तान बेहतर करने के लिए और फायदा देने के लिए. Next. Next, G. The other methodology was related to the capacity building process also. We do always a need assessment. This was done by ILO, and the manual was developed based on that need assessment. Then we also do a stakeholder strategic analysis. We also develop tools, we pre-test those, then we adjust them, we train again, and then we assess, and then we capitalize. And capitalize is about sharing and learning, like what we are doing now and what we'll be doing more. Next. Next. In terms of results, so overall, there were two animations which were developed to sensitize communities and media people on ILO Convention 182 and 138. We receive always extremely good feedback from the animation we produce. People find it very user-friendly to understand. Otherwise, both mushkil alfaz istemal karte hain na kanun mein. So this is a user-friendly way to teach law to people who are not lawyers or legal experts per se, basically. Next. We have million views of those videos, basically. So this was really positively reviewed. A training manual was adjusted and developed. It's still in an adjustment phase work, by the way, after regional feedback. Next. Training were delivered. You can see that those were very interactive training. So when we talk about training, it's not about session like that where everybody's sitting and is just receiving the content. It's very interactive. We have role play, we have working groups, we have creative activities, we have videos, we have group discussions, and it's actually very vibrant. And very importantly, the training themselves fed the development of the manual, actually, because the fine-tuning of the manual at the end was also fed by the trainer's feedback. Next. Getting back, yeah. So in addition to the training manual, we also had a competition award. a competition, media competition for ethical and quality reporting on child labor. And we had three, winners that we will presenting awards to later in the sessions. And that media competition was a way to verify how the journalists that we had trained during the training are actually using the knowledge and the skills acquired to actually produce stories, because otherwise you may do training. If they don't use it, there is no point. So that was a way to basically assess the efficiency of the training as well. Next. What difference did that project make? So we had certainly a huge set of programs. The moment we ended the training, what used to happen is that the trainees were suddenly starting making, stories about child labor using whatever they had learned during the session. So we had videos, TV program on it, second, on child labor. Next. We also had discussion forums on laws and issues, ethics and models that were relayed. We opened a WhatsApp group, and the WhatsApp group past the training phase is actually, it's a simple thing, a WhatsApp group. But for technical mentoring, it's extremely important, it's crucial. So whatever question the journalist had before finalizing their piece, their written piece or their TV programs, they were discussing that through the WhatsApp group, which enabled an informed end product at the end. Next. Ethical guidance. So for example, we had a journalist who said, oh, I have this picture. I want to make this story. Can I share this one? And we were like, remember safeguarding standards? You cannot do that. So this was also, I would say, a support network to ensure that whatever was learned again was being implemented. Next. There were also lots of calls for fundings and opportunities which were shared on that WhatsApp group. दूसरे journalist के लिए एक journalist से दूसरे journalist को मौका share करते थे कि इस इंदारा के अंदर एक opportunity है ना funding के लिए. So suddenly access to those trained journalists and to their friends and to their peers to basically get more support to publish their stories or do their investigation or work together or whatever was also enhanced. Next. Lots of articles were published. Next. It also gave visibility to the project. Next. Training feedback was excellent. So we had suggestions to make it more visual. People wanted more visual material in it. We also had, it was, you know that there is always a very interesting exercise, but there was a cumbersome, and for us it was a learning process to harmonize the ILO perspective on child labor and the UNICEF perspective on child labor. And you know that it's a love and hate relationship, although we are all leading to the same objectives. But it was also something which was technically very important for practitioners to understand. I see that Samir from UNICEF is laughing and Sir from ILO as well. Next. What the trainers also liked a lot was the interactive aspect, but also the mentoring process. So if there is one key lessons learned from any capacity building program which has to be retained, is that never stop to the training. Ensure that you have that mentoring, long-term mentoring, which is available for your trainees for technical, moral, and any form of support. And another important part is that the trainees that we had, the media journalists, talked to each other. So there was a multiplier effect, which also targeted some of their children. So for example, that was a totally unexpected result. Next, one of the child of this training journalist has launched her channel, Journalism for Kids. And actually, ILO project is very proud to announce that we have created, or we have given birth, or given additional opportunity to this 12-year-old little girl who has created now a Kids for Journalism channel, YouTube channel, and she's reporting regularly on child labor. So clap for ILO. This is youth empowerment and child empowerment. And we're really happy to see that. Ali Hassan, a young child rights activist also learned from here, is with us. Please stand up, Ali. He was among the youth who also learned from those media. published articles. Next. And that's the kind of difference so we made. And actually another aspect is that because of the manual which was developed, some other donors reached out to us, and we are now going to actually adjust the training manual, which is now in finalization plan, into an online training module, because one of the suggestions and feedback given by the journalist trainees that we had was that if you can also ensure that that training is available online, that would be very helpful. So we're going to do it in what you call asynchronic. My accent is terrible, I apologize. Asynchronic learning mode, which means you can learn with your own rhythm, progressively, and that will ensure a reach out to more media professionals, basically. Thank you very much. And I would now like to call on stage our panelists for their views on child labor. May I please invite Mrs. Christine Chung, who is the South Asia team leader, Pakistan and Kashmir, from the UN Office of the High Commissioner on Human Rights, please. Come on stage. Yeah, could we please clap for her to encourage her? Thank you. I would also request Mr. Aoun Sahi to join us, a very senior journalist who was very helpful during the training to train the peers. Please, could we welcome him? And online, we have Nadia Jamil, whom I'm sure many of you come. Yeah, special claps for Nadia, please. One of our favorite child rights activists who's always there. She's from UK, but currently she's in UK. Sorry, लेकिन हमारी Pakistan Kabul नहीं गया ना. So basically she said, I'll be here, I'll be online, don't worry. So to start with, thank you all for joining us, first of all. And I would like to please ask you, Christine, can you please explain to us, because this is the starting point, this is really where everything is starting from. What do we mean when we talk about rights of the child in the context of media reporting on child labor?
Thank you, Valerie. I just wanted to thank the ILO and Group Development Pakistan for inviting me to join you all here. It's a very interesting subject. It's a very interesting group, and I commend you, Valerie, your Group Development Pakistan and ILO for taking on this project. It's as you said, it was a really good identification of how to address a very serious child rights issue. It's a human rights violation. And I think I'm here, as Valerie was asking about how we can take a broader look at what this program means. And to look at the rights of the child in the context of media reporting on child labor. So, as you know, children are entitled to human rights and freedoms, as are all individuals, adults and children alike. But children and young people have, beyond the same general human rights, specific rights that recognize their special needs. So the principal international human rights instruments that enshrine these specific children's rights are the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which some of you may know is going to be having its 75th anniversary. This very, very important foundational document, and the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which is also it's an incredible treaty because it has almost universal acceptance, and 193 members, parties, countries, and other bodies have ratified the convention. So the Convention on the Rights of the Child sets out the rights that must be realized for children to develop to their full potential. In terms specifically of reporting on child labor, I think the challenge for journalists, for reporters, for everyone, is to respect the rights of the child in a balance between their right to privacy, their right to participate in decisions while helping them to assess their risks at an age-appropriate level, and protecting them from harm while respecting their right to freedom of expression. Children's rights, like all human rights, are universal, indivisible, interdependent, and interrelated. So their right to privacy actually enables their access to other rights that are critical to developing their personalities. So I think our main focus would be Article 16 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which focuses on the right to privacy. And the article states that no child shall be subjected to arbitrary or unlawful interference with his or her privacy, family, home, or correspondence, nor to unlawful attacks on his or her honor and reputation. The child has the right to the protection of the law against such interference or attacks. And just to be clear, children's privacy relates to their bodily and mental integrity, decisional autonomy, personal identity, informational privacy, and physical and spatial privacy. Now, the foundations of future intellectual, emotional, and sexual life are developed in childhood and adolescence, and they're aided by the conditions of a private life. And around the world, experiences of childhood and the right to privacy may differ. Intersectional factors such as race and gender, this all affects the construction of childhood, but the domains that are instrumental to children's formation of their personalities are still generally family and home life, school and social networks. And those domains are also interrelated and reflect underlying structural factors. And some children, as you were learning, I think in your course, some children face particular vulnerabilities, such as those children in out-of-home care and in street situations, or children with disabilities. Well, the Convention on the Rights of the Child provides states, parties, and parents with the capacity and also the obligation where necessary to adjudicate children's enjoyment of their Article 16 rights, consistent with their evolving capacity. So privacy rights of children have been regarded traditionally as an issue for adults to determine. But I think the best interests of the child approach, which Valerie referenced, which I believe was one of the core principles in your training, or in the training that some of you were part of, this requires adults to actively seek children's views and foremost to treat them seriously. So I'm very encouraged to be here at the end of this program to see that media professionals and young professionals are actively working towards doing their part in respecting the rights of children. So thank you, and I wish you a good rest of this program.
Christine, thank you very much. I'll just pick a few words from what you said. Respecting and taking into consideration children's views is extremely important. We tend to ignore it when you report on child labor, what children think, what they experience, what solution they may actually envisage, and how do they feel about being reported about, is something that needs to be taken into consideration. You also highlighted the fact that we sometimes forget about certain children. ILO has been insisting on the need to look into gender and different abilities also of children involved into child labor. And when we do analyze the pull and push factors, those are elements that
So once we know that we have an overall, an overarching child rights framework, the question that comes in then, that's where Mr. Arunsayed is coming is, okay, can you give us example of ethical and quality media reporting on child labor? Concretely, how do you do this?
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Ayala, and thank you, Group Development Pakistan. Especially, making this issue part of news agenda. You have been doing a commendable job because our news agenda is driven by the politics, crime, all those big stories. And these small stories, they hardly matter over there. And then there's another issue, basically. Our news media or our news organizations, especially the journalists, the reporters, they're trained to cover events and not issues. And these are the issues. This is where we really find a lot of, problems. I can say there are some internal and there's so many external issues as well. So the first is the least investment by the media houses on their reporters and journalists. So that is you have been asking me examples where we have done really good job on child labor issues or child issues. You still remember there are some cases, and some of those cases that people they would still remember, and one of them was a case when a couple here at Islamabad, and the husband, he was a judge at a local court, and his wife, she was also a kind of educated lady. They badly tortured a girl who was, a house help, and she was a house help at a judge's house, the first thing first. And then she was being kept there, like, I would say illegally, but 24/7 she was working there. She was beaten badly. And then that issue became such a big issue for a few days in our news media, mainly because that happened in Islamabad. And our news media is one of the most elitist media maybe in the world, because we are totally concentrated on 3 or 4 cities of this country, which is Karachi. If something happens in Karachi, that is big news. If something happens in Lahore, that is big news. And then if something happens in Islamabad, that is the news, because these are the 3 cities. And then you have the cities in the fringes, which is Peshawar. If there is a story of terrorism or extremism or some big blast happens, then you can cover it from Peshawar or maybe from Quetta. But these are the only 5 cities which are kind of a bit of representative in our media. But still we are not discussing our news agenda, which is, I already told you, that highly politicized, and it's basically driven by 2 main areas, and especially one which is politics, and all these other issues, they are totally ignored. So you remember that issue was covered like different events. The day first, that girl was brought, she was tortured and brought to the hospital. Day 2, police registered FIR. Day 3, the wife and the husband, they went to the court. Day 4, the court basically started hearing. Day 5, the children, they appeared from somewhere. Day 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we don't know what happened. The last thing we know, that the children, the parents, they have some kind of agreement with the family, and everything gone away, even from the media. So if you're asking me the examples where we have done really great in child labor issues or child issues or women issues, we hardly have good examples to narrate here. And I really there are some organizations, like if you like the news, and then from the news there's an organization, it's the News on Sunday. Basically, I started my career with that organization, and my first story was on child labor, and we used to do a lot of stuff on that. But still we are not the mainstream organization. Then Dan does some good work on that. English newspapers, they try to do some, good reporting on that there, because there's a compulsion on English newspapers. And so that's why I think they try to, incorporate all these stories from different, areas which are not covered by mainstream media. But otherwise, if you'll ask me, our mainstream media, they hardly cover these issues. And even if they cover, it's not they cover the issue, they cover the events. You don't have beat reporters to cover child labor, leave alone other issues. You have multiple reporters who cover politics. You have multiple reporters who cover crime. You in same organizations, you would have hardly specialized reporter who've been covering these issues. And then these issues, they're not sellable in your newsrooms. So organizations like you and ILO, they have been striving, they have been trying their level best. They have been offering us, trainings. This is something which our news organizations should have done. And this is like when we are talking about children, I think, I don't have data right now with me, but at least 30% of Pakistani population is less than 18, at least. So if you're looking for a kind of base, if you're looking for a viewership base, I don't think something bigger than that you can find in Pakistan. But still, it doesn't, make me or make all these news organizations to focus on these issues, because these issues don't bring ads. These issues don't bring power to the media owners. And these issues don't make journalists brush their shoulders with the power circles. So there are so many, internal issues, maybe some external, but I think internal issues mainly, they have been hampering us to, focus more on these issues, which are the real issues. They are the issues around us. These are the issues which we should focus more on. Yes, we have been trying our level best. Things are going in positive way, but in a very slow process. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Ansari. If I just try to summarize what you said, so not so many good example of ethical and quality reporting on child labor. So that makes ILO project very relevant. Thank you very much. It's good. And we hope that, as you say, the progress is slow, but it's going to be taken. Hello? Yeah. More seriously, slow progress, but we are in the right direction. और ये चीज ना आहिस्ता आहिस्ता तब्दीली एक दिन से नहीं आ रहा है, ये वक्त के साथ कदम पे आ रहा है, and this is the beginning of the right direction. We will see that as a result of the training, we have a few good examples of ethical and quality reporting on child labor that came from our training directly. And just to be the last point, you are right, कि हमेशा लाहौर या इस्लामाबाद से या कराची या पेशावर से कहानी आ रहा है ना. During the training, we really have made sure, and that was a discussion that we had with ILO and FCDO in general, to try to reach out to other districts and be as inclusive as possible. And we really gave priority to the journalists who normally did not have that kind of opportunities. For us, it was very important. And that turned out to be extremely fruitful. And I think that's also probably why we found them so motivated. Because for once, they felt they were heard. We were there for them as well. Last but not the least, I would now like to call the Nadia Jamil online. Thank you, Nadia. And please, Nadia, tell us, you are very active on social media and you are speaking, you're raising your voice against child labor. What do you think is the role of media in countering child labor?
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. As we're all speaking and recognizing today, we're talking about child labor. I want to dig in a little deeper. Child labor leads to child sexual abuse. One of the things I speak about is the consequences of child labor and how child sexual abuse, CSA, is attached to child labor. Domestic laborers, young children who work at chai addas on truck stops, coal miners who are little children are all being exposed and being raped as we even speak right now. I'm going to give two brief examples and then I'm going to talk about media and our role in media real quickly. So 5 years ago, 2018, 4 years ago, Akbar Natskoi wrote a fantastic report on a town called Shahrag in Balochistan, where children are exploited and used as bonded laborers and coal miners. These children are also sexually abused daily. On interviewing, the coal miners openly admit to the sexual abuse, and the children, and this is what's really horrifying, the children openly talk about their sexual abuse and they laugh about it. And they say that, you know, when we grow up, we don't want to be a coal miner because a coal miner has many different boys. We want to be a truck driver. A truck driver has one boy. This means that by normalizing child labor, for these children, we are normalizing rape and we are normalizing child sexual abuse in the practice and in the form of bachabazi. So child labor, ignoring it is a far, far more heinous crime than we actually openly talk about in media. The other example I want to give is of these two young boys who last Bakra Eid, last Eid in Pakistan, two boys, age 11 and 7, were bonded laborers, slaves in a house in Defense Phase 3 in Lahore. When these two children opened the fridge to eat because they were hungry, the older child was tied up and beaten to death in front of his little brother, who was also beaten to the point that he reached ICU. I work with the surviving child. I work with children who survive trauma. And I am telling you what the children exposed to child labor are going through right now, as we're all sitting and talking. It's real for them. Not only are they going through it, but afterwards, when they're pulled out of child labor, there is very little to know. In fact, there is zero mental health support for children who are rescued from child labor. These are the facts that I'm laying out. This is not just a small news item. This is a national crisis. Pakistan is suffering a national crisis. It is a crisis as big as the floods. Kasoor happened. Shahrag is happening. Zainab died. Countless other children died. Names and names and names. I know children are being abused even as we're speaking. And this is not yet national news. It's not trending anywhere. As far as media is concerned and the responsibility of media is concerned, we all know, as our eminent speakers have spoken about, how little media is very taking this horse by its handles and how media focuses on politics and other stuff. But media is the TV, radio, print media, which we all know is used by politicians for their, various needs and ratings. But today in 2022, media is also you and me, because there is a social media revolution that has occurred. And social media also, even though it does not have the training of a journalist, which is why I'd like to request for people on social media to also be given the kind of training that is so fantastically being offered. Otherwise, social media also shares information fast and creates trends fast. And I would request all of us here, कि जो सबसे बड़ा और सबसे अहम trend है, the most critical trend that needs to be created in Pakistan right now is the need for a child protection system, the need for real safeguarding, complete safeguarding, and the need for the dignity of every child to be respected and the rights for every child to be respected. This need for a child protection system, I think the trend should be the solution. The problem we all know. What is the solution? And the solution is a child protection system. The solution is all of us talking about this, not pretending it's not happening. Shahrag mein is waqt bachabazi ho rahi hai. जो बच्चे अड्डों पे काम करते हैं या घरों में काम करते हैं, उनका उन पे तशद्दुद और जिस्मानी तशद्दुद और जिनसी तशद्दुद हो रहा है. And these kids are from the ages of 5 to 18. So my appeal is to everyone here to be part of that tsunami that will eventually create this child protection system that we desperately need in Pakistan, and to not close our eyes to what's happening to the boys in Sharag, and to ban bachabazi, stop, end it, speak about it. It's become a cultural practice in our country now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nadia. Thank you for calling our conscience, and also highlighting again that the nexus between child labor and referral mechanism and child protection mechanism, how also what Aoun Saeb has just said, how the media in Pakistan tend to focus, and I would really join my voice to that, to political shows. And seriously speaking, I think many Pakistanis will join me in that. We are sick and tired of having your political shows, debates with all those politicians yelling at each other, fighting with each other, insulting each other. We got the message. It's redundant, it's repetitive, it's, honestly speaking, it's become boring at that point. But what we really want to know, what we would love to hear, is quality show, quality discussion, focusing on solutions, very important. Informed quality shows focusing on solutions to address issues that are actually going to enable our country to be built, to thrive. So what we are asking media here is, it's not only about those trainings, it's about a momentum, a network. We hope that after this conference, you can join ILO, GDP, and all the other people who are here and the journalists in raising your voice. Nadia said it, trend the solutions. Ask for a child protection mechanism. Ask for enforcement of decent wages. Ask for people not being allowed, and just show the model. Do not recruit children in your home. Oppose bachabazi, and just point out, we need to ask the authority to do something for Sharba. Children have nothing to do in coal mining. This is forbidden by the law in Pakistan as well. Thank you, Nadia, for reminding us of all this. Again, a clap to you. And I hope that the TV channels here listen to us. I repeat, less political shows, more shows that focus on social solutions for social issues. Please. Thank you. Thank you so much. Please stay with us. There is room for everybody. Don't worry, don't go away. I would now like to call, actually, so far, I would like to ask in the group, and we also have one of the ILO staff who's joined us, I think, from SARC country. I don't know if it's still connected or not, but is there anyone, and especially the student, the younger lot, who has a comment or a question to ask to the panelists? If you do, please keep it brief. Start with introducing yourself. And I repeat, keep it brief. That means 50 seconds maximum to ask your questions or do your comment. Thank you.
Endorse with Nadia said, please keep on sharing content on social media, but just, keep in mind, never ever share the pictures of those kids. So make it, clear. So you need to be, bit ethical when you're sharing content on social media. Thank you.
I don't know if your mic is working.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Asim Mir. I'm from Tarnol Press Club and representing Express News from Texila. So my suggestion, and also you can say my question is, in Islamabad, now we are talking about all over the Pakistan, especially far-flung area in Balochistan, in Quetta and something like that. So we daily, in our daily life, in daily routine, we used to see in every traffic signal, there are a lot of children, they are begging but actually they are not begging. They are doing their job from any stakeholder they are in their habitual routine. And even then, during begging, they usually sexually abused. And in territory of Islamabad, there are a lot. I have seen and I can show each and every people in Islamabad. There's a lot of brick kennels in surrounding in Islamabad. Still, children are working over there, and they are in daily life routine. They are beaten by their owners, and also they are sexually harassed. So we should change our law. We should implement our law. Government should implement our law on child protection and child rights. The last thing I suggest you, the conferences and the training is not enough. We should make the law. Thank you.
So UNICEF is present in the office, and I just want to say on their behalf that I have no mandate for it. It's just because I know, okay? But the National Commission on the Rights of the Child will come and will probably say the same, but we are all aware and we agree with you that the ICT Child Protection Act and the ICT Child Employment Act needs to be enforced, and that means more work with the Federal Ministry of Human Rights and the police and the other relevant department. Ek need hai waki ek priority agenda hona chahiye uske liye. Ji, next. Keep it short, please. I don't want to be disrespectful. I just want everybody to have the time to speak. इसी वजह से मैं कह रही हूँ.
बहुत शुक्रिया जी. ये ट्रेनिंग हमने ली थी पेशावर में. मेरा नाम साजिद टकर है, शाहबाज अखबार से. तो बहुत ज़बरदस्त बातें जो होती हैं, जो मतलब ज़्यादातर सहाफ़ियों को पता नहीं होता इन चीज़ों का. So we came to know about those things. मेरा एक सवाल है और एक मेरा ऑब्जर्वेशन है. हम बहुत ज़्यादा सियासतदानों से मतलब शिकवे करते हैं और सारी चीज़ें उन पर डालते हैं, या फिर हम मीडिया ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस पर आते हैं कि वो नहीं करते, मालिकान ये करते हैं, वो ये, या प्रायोरिटीज़ हमारी कुछ अलग होती हैं. आप देखें कि हमारी कौमी ज़बान उर्दू है, ठीक है, लेकिन जब आप कैंपेन करते हैं, जो इदारे होते हैं, तो आप ये देखें कि जो लैंग्वेज है, मतलब इश्तिहार की या कैंपेन की, वो आप कौन सा इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं. जो ओपिनियन मेकर्स होते हैं, जो वहाँ के शायर होते हैं, जो सिंगर्स होते हैं, आप उनको भी इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. मतलब बच्चों के हवाले से बहुत ज़बरदस्त शायरी हो रही है. ज़बी भी शीरीन नयम, सरदार अली टकर ने ये मतलब जो मलाला को नोबेल मिल रहा था, तो वो मतलब वो गीत उन्होंने गाया था वर्ल्ड वाइड, ठीक है. तो बच्चों के हवाले से जो हमारे लिखारी होते हैं या शायर होते हैं, आप उनको इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं इंडिजिनस लैंग्वेज में, लोकल लैंग्वेज में. मतलब मैं पुख्तून हूँ, तो एक बच्चे के बारे में पुश्तो में लिखी गई कोई गीत या मतलब कोई शेर या कोई कहावत, वो मुझे ज़्यादा अट्रैक्ट करेगा बजाय इसके कि किसी और लैंग्वेज में हो. तो आप थोड़ा सा मतलब ये पेरेंट्स को भी अच्छा लगता है. मैसेज आपका क्लियर और सिंपल होना चाहिए. शुक्रिया.
So for the guests who don't speak Urdu, the gentleman highlighted what you call cognitive communication. Okay, when you make a campaign, you need to make sure also that you are using the right language, the right approach, so that you can actually create that change, because you are looking at opinion makers or target groups, and you do not necessarily use the relevant language or the relevant vector or material to reach out to those people and make sure that they are going to get that message. It's a big issue when we do awareness campaign, Waki, and that's a very valid point to remember. We need to be cognitive. G, next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sherkan Malik. I'm a human rights activist. I work on transgender rights and religious minorities, or FORB. My question is, there's this prevailing narrative in regards to child labor, for justifying child labor, rather. If not here, how will the child's life be? There's a sort of benevolent use or benevolent narrative that wraps around child labor. And obviously, often a counter to it is, are they in the wrong in saying that? Because what is a child's life if not earning that money for their family or bringing that certain subsistence to their life where they're able to meet their basic needs, where in Pakistan, a lot of children are not even able to do that. Considering education and opportunities post-education are non-existent and not focused on at all. So how do we counter this benevolence that the elite class, of which I'm sure many of us belong to, are actively propagating despite the fact that we're all sitting here?
Whom do you direct your question to?
The panel, whoever feels like they want to answer it.
I'd like to say something. I'd like to say something on this.
Okay, Nadia and then Christine, yeah? Yeah, okay. Nadia first and then Christine, sorry.
But, there have been cases where we've had parents, of 8 children, actually refer to the children as their zarra amdani, their way to earn money. So they actually use children in order to, and exploit children in order to earn money. And I think it's very, very important for us to understand that the issue of poverty is not the burden of the child. The economic structure of Pakistan and how we have failed, or what is happening economically, is not the burden of the child and not the responsibility of the child. It is the responsibility of the adult. And to alleviate poverty is never the job of a 7-year-old or a 10-year-old or an 11-year-old. And I think it's important for us to first just accept that as a fact and create that awareness. And just it's important to create that awareness in local indigenous languages as well. And it's the job of the media and the government to then create a system of poverty alleviation. It's not the child's responsibility. And I just want to add, before Christine takes over, I wanted to just highlight the Child Protection Bureau Punjab has done, I want to say something positive as well, and it is something good that's happening. The Child Protection Bureau Punjab has managed to reduce the begging by children quite an extent in Punjab with its 112, 11221 call. You call the emergency number if you see a child begging, and the Child Protection Bureau will take the child, and there will be a case against the parent of the child if that parent is involved, and the child will become a ward of the government of the state. And I work in these shelters where they're safe and they're all educating the children. They're safe havens for the children, and I wish that was happening at a central level as well. But yeah, I just want to say, it's not the job of the child ever. ये बच्चे का काम नहीं है कि हमारे मुआशरे की आमदनी का वो जिम्मेदारी उठाए कभी भी. Thank you.
I sure have so much more to add beyond what Nadia said, and I agree with her absolutely. But a couple points. One, the best interests of the child. I think that is one of the principles that you can always go back to. Is it in the best interest of the child to be out of school? Is it in the best interest of the child to be in a hazardous situation? Be it physical harm, be it sexual violence, be it any of these situations that they become more vulnerable to by being in these situations of child labor. The other point, now I've just lost my train of thought. But I think we were talking about, I think one of the questions was also about the laws and the need for laws. I think Pakistan actually has, it has domestic laws that are not maybe perhaps complete, but they are still good. There's a need for the implementation of the laws and measures that allow law enforcement and other officials to implement these laws. I think also there are some gaps. Pakistan has ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child as well as other international human rights treaties. And so in terms of the legal infrastructure, that's there. But I think the barriers really are about implementation of what exists.
I just add a personal story to that question. I'm from a village from Sialkot district, and in mid-80s, when I was in primary school, there was several factories they started in my village, and many of my class fellow, they left the school and they started working over there, like at least 15 or 20 of them. And what happened after that, after a couple of years, many of them, they started having drugs. And I can still remember at least 5 of them, they died when they were in their 20s because of the overdose of drugs. So once they started working on those factories, they started earning some money that gave them a kind of empowerment. And then they started sitting with all those people because they were giving money to their parents and their families. So they become a bit more empowered, and then they started sitting with all those people who used to sell drugs. And then at least 50% of them, they died when they were very young. So this is not a child's duty to, feed their families. I have never ever seen any animal to send their small kids to bring food for them.
I think just to close, we'll take one more question and then we'll have to move on to the next agenda. We also need to remember that it's demonstrated through research that child labor perpetuates the cycle of poverty and does not break poverty. So apart from ensuring that there is implementation of law, including law related to child labor, I think it's very important to work also on population growth and family planning. It's an important aspect which was identified by the journalists during the training, as well as socioeconomic empowerment of parents. We also need to be very careful when we want to counter child labor, not to fall into the trap of criminalizing poverty. Because, we also need to take into consideration all those socioeconomic inequalities that feed child labor, that explain parental deficiency also. And so I think it was mentioned earlier, it's a holistic approach. It's a multi-sectoral approach. And that is why ILO does not work alone and work with CSOs. That's why FCDO is funding so many partners. And that's why we call upon media, because you need to reach out with a variety of stakeholders that really are going to work together through a systemic multi-sectoral approach. And socioeconomic empowerment of families is essential to stop child labor, in addition to awareness, sensitization in a cognitive manner with local tools and local language to also create that paradigm shift and that behavioral change. Thank you so much. Clap for the participants. Yeah. I will, we're going to swap actually. Yes. Should I now?
Yeah. Hello. Could I now have the pleasure to call on stage Sarah Cooper, Group Head Governance and Open Society FCDO, who represents FCDO, but who's also a very inspired person. She's always there whenever we need to have guidance and ideas. Thank you so much. And then may I also call Mrs. Sorry, and we all know her because, like Nadia, whenever there is a case, whenever there is an abuse, whenever there is a problem, she will come, she will speak up, she will challenge until it's delivered. Afshan Tassi, Chairperson of the National Commission on the Rights of the Child, please. And then, actually, I didn't do it on purpose. I just look at that now. I know it's a women power panel, actually. Could I please also call, I'm a fan, she knows it, and also very, very powerful voice to challenge socioeconomic, but gender inequalities, basically. Miss Kashmala Tariq, who's the federal ombudsperson, please. Thank you very much. And it's no, it's not luck. It's not an hazardous decision to bring them all together. We really want to highlight the intersections and what needs to be done, how we can have their views to see through their experience, their understanding of the issue, and I think it's very important also, their perception as a woman, as a mother, as a human being. They think that involving media into ethical and quality reporting on child labor is important to foster that change. Sarah, could you please join us here? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate all of you being here today. On behalf of FCDO, thank you enormously for the work that you're all doing in this area. And thank you to colleagues from GDP and ILO. We're really glad to be part of this important session today on child labour. Child labour, as we've said, is a really important issue because it has such a detrimental impact on children's rights in terms of education, physical health, mental well-being, and their long-term development opportunities, as colleagues on the panel have already said. It's no secret that those involved in child labour are often exposed to very dangerous working conditions, and they suffer the negative effects on their health. They're deprived of their leisure time, and they're highly vulnerable to physical and sexual abuse. Particularly in times of crisis, child labour becomes, unfortunately, a coping mechanism for many families. As poverty rises, schools close, and the availability of social services decreases, more children get pushed into the workforce. COVID-19, the floods here in Pakistan, and other climate disasters, and the subsequent economic crisis that has fallen from all of this, exacerbates the risk of children being engaged in labour, and they're forced to generate income for their families to survive. FCDO is doing a lot of work to tackle this issue at different levels in Pakistan in partnership with colleagues at UNICEF. We've supported things like birth registration so that over 3 million children have an identity document and are registered in government systems. And this is really important because this enables them to be counted, and it helps us to understand their prospects. In addition, through this partnership with UNICEF and ILO, we support research and new data collection. I'm really proud to say that we've supported Pakistan to undertake a child labour survey after a gap of only over 2 decades. In Punjab, this survey has already been launched and is providing very useful data. We now know that in Punjab, 13.4% of children aged 5 to 14 years age are working. This is a significant proportion of children's population that should otherwise be in school and enjoying their childhood. Among those children aged 10 to 14 who are working, 47.8% are working in hazardous conditions. Many of them are engaged in the use of hazardous tools, working in hazardous and unsafe hours, and are vulnerable to abuse. As a mother, as a parent, as a colleague, we cannot let this happen. None of us wants a future for our children, which jeopardizes their lives and deprives them of a right to an education. Media, as colleagues have said, can play a crucial role in highlighting issues pertaining to child labour. The use of data for the child labour surveys in press stories and in blogs and on the TV can bring this issue to life, and if done in a responsible way, can raise the attention of policymakers, which is really important. It's also important to make sure that policymakers understand that child labour is a form of modern slavery, and we need to put their acts together with ours to develop and implement policies to end economic exploitation of children and to expand social protection for poor families to prevent them from these being coping strategies. I personally believe that the media has a huge responsibility. It's a key stakeholder in raising and relaying Indigenous voices and young people's voices, and ensuring that in this process, the do no harm principle prevails. It's really heartening for me today to see so many young people here, because you are the voice of the future. It's really important we hear those voices, and the media has a massive role to play within that, both online and through social media. I'm very glad that Dr. Ahsan Iqbal has graced this occasion too. We know that government's commitment to the issue of child labour is really important, and also in issues of freedom of expression. Oh, he's not, unfortunately, that's a shame. To enable protection for journalists to report on child labour and other human rights abuses in the interest of Pakistan. And this is really necessary to progress the sustainable development goals, which we're all really committed to. In closing, just a huge thank you to colleagues at GDP and ILO for their continued support, and thank all of you for listening. Thank you. Shukriya.
Yes, the Honourable Federal Minister on Planning, Development and Reform has been called by the Prime Minister at 2 p.m. for a meeting. He said that he would try his best to come, but you know, we don't know. This is out beyond his and our control, basically. May I call on Afshan Taiba, please, to tell us how the National Commission on the Rights of the Child, what you're doing to tackle child labor, and also how you could work with media to basically tackle the issue of ethical and quality reporting. Thank you.
With my this or this one, okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. All the worthy speakers here before you were speaking brilliant about child labor, and all the representatives from media, from civil society, from government. Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening, I must say. In fact, a very, very sad and very, very difficult and very hard topic to speak. This commission, which I am representing here as a chairperson, was established on 20th of February 2020 under the Act of Parliament with a mandate to be a regulatory body, to be a monitoring and oversight body, with a mandate to enforce all the, enforcement across country in all the 4 provinces, including federal ICT and federal area. Maybe after 30 years, because this is a good opportunity, lots of people don't know about these NHRIs, National Human Rights Institutes, or monitoring bodies, or such commissions. So it is important to share a little bit of what this government commission is about. After 30 years, as a result of the, ratification by government of Pakistan of UNCRC, this commission has been established to have a mandate to walk across the country and to monitor and highlight the violations of child rights. It is a mandate to see what are the legislative structures, what are the institutional structures, what are the gaps in their working, and how children in Pakistan can be benefited by suggesting improvements, by suggesting recommendations to the parliament, to the government, to the civil society, and at all levels. The commission, other than having a mandate to review and recommend policies and laws or administrative instruments, it also has a mandate to work on awareness raising. It also has a mandate to deal with cases of child, violations in terms of complaint handling, and then redress mechanism. And it also has a mandate to ensure compliance of international UN treaties and conventions and everything which the government of Pakistan has signed. After its establishment, because luckily, maybe it happened for the first time that people who took charge of this commission as a chairperson and members, most of them were, from development sector, from UN sector. So there was no need of having maybe 6 months or year-long orientation to know what we are supposed to do. So simultaneously, after working on the establishment of this commission and its operational side, we started working on the program side. And the very first case which came to us, we were very new. We did not even had an office, did not have a staff or anything. So we encountered a case of a girl, 7-year-old girl, who was beaten to death by her, employers where she was employed. And then we took notice of it, wrote to IG, police, he sent the, SSP and police. In fact, after this case was highlighted a lot in media, after that, that case was, taken up by police as being the party itself, and what they presented to us in our commission meeting, which is always being tended by the Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Human Rights, and provincial heads of provincial commissions being part of the commission legally, so that SSP informed that the parents of that girl were so poor that they could not come to collect the dead body of that girl. And you know, there is one very disastrous thing which happens in Pakistan, which is out of court settlement. So in that case also, the easy exploitation was that there were fewer people, so there was out of court settlement. And you know what was the price of out of court settlement that SSP told us? It was 7,000 rupees only. So this is not the first case. Earlier, Nadia Jamil was mentioning that case of a boy in Punjab who was beaten to death just because he was hungry and he wanted to eat something from the refrigerator. So the commission again took action. I went myself, I took along Parliamentary Secretary on Human Rights, and thanks to Punjab IG and all his entire senior officials who were there to present us what they had done so far, all the homework, though it was confidential. But surprisingly, I came to know that it was not that only child which was beaten to death. There was a younger child also, and a sister was also. And their father, who was very poor, was not owning them. He had handed them over to a spiritual healer, and who then given those two young boys as domestic help. And the girl who was 9-year-old, he kept her for his marriage with him. And that girl's father had no objection on, that 9 years old, girl's marriage to that very elderly person. So, and there are various stories, about domestic labor and child labor. And my only narrative or point over here is 2 points. Number one, what is the role of policymakers? What is the role of government institutions? What is the role of media particularly? And what is the role of society? And then parents, particularly parents. So let me just tell you that up till now, we have realized that all those cases which have, gained attention was only because of media. It is just media that something is highlighted, and, the police and the Adare and the institutions and everybody then, takes notice of it, and then some people get benefit. But otherwise, it is happening everywhere in the country, everywhere, starting from cities to the villages, and there is no accountability to counterfeit it, no mechanism to counterfeit it. And we should not see only these children being abused, exploited, beaten to death, but we should see what type of abuses they are facing. They are the ones who are facing physical violence, emotional violence, mental violence, trafficking, drugs, sexual abuse. You name a sort of abuse and they are victim of all that. So it is not something in isolation that somebody is working on the roads or at, domestic child labor, which is even more lethal because it is hidden behind the closed doors. Nobody can monitor it. And we don't have any legislation at the moment except for Punjab with a minimal maybe punishment 1,000 or what for it. Otherwise, there is no mechanism, at the national level to deal with all these cases. So my narrative is, when we are letting these children suffer as street children, as commercial, labor, as domestic laborers, as child laborers, as beggars. So what we are, doing for country as a positive society, when all these children will grow up, and normally we know that 48% of population of Pakistan consists of children and youth, youngest country after Afghanistan. So all these children, when they are growing up as adults and mainstreaming into society, so do you think we are producing healthy nation, educated nation, positive mindsets? Definitely. What we are investing or what we are feeding in, the same mindset and the human resource and adults is feeding into society, distorting its fabric. And when everything is destroyed, then we say, this is happening, that is happening, all these negativities we speak when the over spilt milk. So, I mean, this is an area over here, if we see it from the context of all these child labor issue, from the context of street children, from the context of child domestic health, from the context of child beggars, we have nothing here at hand in Pakistan to deal with it. Normally, there is like when this commission took charge, we started from ICT and we straight away went to DC, Hamza Shafqat. And what we came to know was that there are families, it's a mafia who buy families, who place families. And then, you know, if you start taking rates, you will definitely be attacked. And that's exactly what had started happening. Hamza Shafqat himself was attacked. And another reason that, you know, whenever there is pressure of, you know, such cases, all the onus comes on police to deal with it. But in fact, if you really see, Valerie, you will agree with me, there is no such law under which police is supposed to deal with them. Police will, capture them, put them in thanas, then what? There is disconnect of a referral and redress and coordination among other institutions who are supposed to then pick these children, maybe put them into shelters, maybe rehabilitate them, maybe provide them legal support, maybe provide them social protection support so that this does not occur. But instead of focusing on their parents, we focus on those children and we pick them and we put them into thanas and then make them, you know, a victim of lots of torture. Everybody knows their story. So here comes the case of what is happening in terms of laws, what is happening in terms of the mechanisms available to deal with these cases of child labor, no matter where they are. The mechanisms are missing. The referral mechanism and connection, coordination, communication between all the concerned stakeholders is missing. Departments are working in silos. So nobody knows, you know, if you pick up a child, who is the next agency to deal with it and to rehabilitate that child or to mainstream that child. Again, the parents are not connected. The children are, you know, targeted and they are made further abuse and what else? Second narrative is, since we are talking about media, since our commission was very new, we thought what to do which is smarter. Of course, I'm not saying work harder because we did work harder. So what smarter strategy we adopted to know about this commission, which has a mandate to deal with violations of child rights. We first of all engaged a goodwill ambassador, Ehsan Khan, who had worked on the cases of, you know, child abuse. Secondly, we straight away went to PEMRA and we sat in front of chairman PEMRA, and we really bugged him. If you ask him, he will let you know. But the benefit was that all those clips or material which we had produced, PEMRA, you know, directed all the TV channels to telecast it for free. So the report which PEMRA had sent us was a 70 pages report, which was viewers were in millions and millions and millions. And that was for free, and every news channel, you know, had telecasted those channels. And seeing our success story of government should adopt, take up the, you know, this intervention of prevention and awareness raising, instead of only development sector or civil societies doing it alone. Seeing this good practice, when we were engaged in SIN on the amendment of SIN Child Protection Authority Act, at that time they also made PEMRA part of that SIN Child Protection Authority Act. And you can see these days, last month there was very frequent campaigns going on in SIN against SIN Child Protection Authority Act. So this is something which we have to emphasize, that you will need another 100 years if you will go with the same speed. So in order to be smarter, ensuring your outreach, ensuring all the right holders, these children, get benefit of what we are doing, we have to engage media, because children for whom we are working, they don't know there is some institution exists in Peshawar, exists in Islamabad, exists in Karachi for us, where we have to go and get help. So media is the most powerful tool, including social media and all the other IT, platforms we are saying, to, not only to sensitize, but also to maybe keep duty bearers accountable to do that job. So this is one narrative, and another one, no matter other issues, we can say, okay, we don't have as much role as maybe government departments, but child labor is one such area where 99% onus comes on the parents and the primary caretakers, because and the society as large, because in this case the rich people are exploiting the poor people by engaging their children in child labor, by being very much insensitive and immune. And a girl having 5 years of age is carrying a bag of a 5-year-old girl, if you just go and stand behind the big elite schools. So a society also has a role. We have to look to ourselves also internally, where what kind of accountability we have from our own selves. As an individual, what are we doing? We are letting it happen. We are all the big people who can afford maybe 20,000, 30,000 a month. They're just paying 1,000 a month, 500 a month, because I know lots of people who are paying 500 a month to these domestic laborers, young children, even 1,000 a month. This money you spend every day for buying an ice cream. So there has to be some accountability mechanisms. And last point, when Commission realized that things are not happening, we went to court. Justice Babar Sattar, I everywhere quote him, and we requested him to pass an order to ensure all the concerned government institutes should have a referral mechanism. So courts can play a role. Courts should have rules so that whenever these issues of child protection, child rights come, they should be very proactively engaged in ensuring that all the concerned stakeholders are playing its role. And again, thank you very much, Valerie. We can say a lot, but time is very short. These monitoring mechanisms should be more, because currently NCRC is just one in Pakistan. And there are other provincial institutes with a limited mandate. Everybody is implementing. There has to be someone to monitor them, what they are doing. And if there are any gaps or they need any support or they face issues, somebody should be there to highlight that gaps and present it to the concerned federal and provincial governments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm noticing a few movements. Please stay with us. It's not over. We're shifting to the exciting part where we're going to give the awards to the winners of the competition. And we also have a special guest, a special winner somewhere in the crowd. His name is Umar Khan. I'll not tell you why now. I would like just him to stand up. He's a young winner, and you will see in a few minutes why we call him so. Please sit down. Thank you. Meanwhile, we also have received a good news. Mr. Azhar Malik, Deputy Secretary of Ministry of Overseas Pakistanis and HRD, is confirmed and will join us soon for the closing remarks. Meanwhile, can I please call on Mrs. Kashmala Tariq? We talked about adult work versus child labor, and we would like to ask Kashmala Tariq to explain to us how does her as an ombudsperson fighting sexual harassment, how does she think she can contribute to ending child labor?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Afsha Saiba, Honorable Valerie, Mr. Thomas, Honorable, don't have the glasses, huh? Christine Chu, Mr. On Sahi, Honorable Sarah Cooper, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. मुझे भी नींद आ गई थी, आपको भी आई है? उठ जाएं थोड़ा सा. So today we are here for a very, and of course not forgetting Nado. How can I forget her? Hello, I hope you can see me. Nadia and I go back a long time. Our children are friends, we are friends. Her husband is my dearest friend. So long connections. And I must commend the work she's doing, and all of us. I would say all of you who are sitting here. Minglish, they've heard a lot of English. I think let's talk in a bit of Urdu. So all of you who are here, I believe, first of all, I'd like to salute you all. جو بچے آئے ہیں یہاں پہ, جو پڑھ رہے ہیں, جو کالجز سے آئے ہیں, جو جرنلسٹ آئے ہیں, جو ٹاپک ہے یہاں پہ, جو سب کی کنٹریبیوشن ہے, جو ٹریننگ کی ہے ویلری نے ان کی, which is much needed, اور اس کے اوپر سب کو سلیوٹ ہے. چیمپئنز ہیں آپ سوسائٹی, اور جو یہاں پر ٹائم نکال کر آئے ہیں اور بیٹھے ہیں اور کنٹریبیوٹ کر رہے ہیں, this is a proof کہ you are committed to the cause, right? So I would say that taking from the good things and the good points which everybody has mentioned here, I would like to tell you a brief work we are doing. I am the Federal Ombudsman for Protection Against Harassment for Women at Workplace. ٹھیک ہے, کام کی جگہ پہ جب ہراسانی ہوتی ہے تو لوگ ہمارے پاس رپورٹ کرنے آتے ہیں. اب ہمارا اور اس ٹاپک کا ایشو کیسے سملر ہے؟ ایشو اس طرح سملر ہے کہ رپورٹنگ ہی نہیں ہوتی, اعتماد ہی نہیں ہے, نہ رپورٹنگ ہوتی ہے, نہ لوگ باہر نکلتے ہیں, اور ایک ایشو کو ہم دبا دیتے ہیں. لوگ کیا کہیں گے؟ سب سے بڑا ٹاپک کیا ہے ہمارے ہاں؟ خوف کا, کہ لوگ کیا کہیں گے. خواتین کے ساتھ ہراسانی ہوتی ہے, ہیرسمنٹ ہوتی ہے, they don't speak up. ان کے بچوں کے ساتھ ہوتی ہے, they don't speak up. ان کی فیملیز میں بچوں کے ساتھ آپ دیکھیں چائلڈ molestation ہوتی ہے, they don't speak up. جب پیچھے ایک بہت سارا ٹاپک نکلا تھا, and Nadia was very vocal about it, and many other celebrities came out, کہ بچوں کے ساتھ, یہ تو پریویلیج گھر ہیں جہاں پہ چائلڈ سیکشل ابیوز ہوتا ہے. تو آپ سوچیں اسٹریٹ چلڈرن کے ساتھ کیا؟ اسٹریٹ چلڈرن کے ساتھ جو ابیوز ہوتا ہے وہ تو ہم کسی کھاتے میں ہی نہیں لاتے, وہ تو سمجھتے ہیں کہ وہ بیچارے پیدا ہی اس لیے ہوئے ہیں. تو اگر آپ لوگوں کے ایشوز دیکھیں, آپ کسی سائیکالوجسٹ سے, سائیکیٹرسٹ سے ملتے ہیں, جب آپ ان سے بات کرتے ہیں, اور کئی لوگ جب بڑی بڑی پوزیشنز پہ پہنچ جاتے ہیں تو ان پوزیشنز پہ پہنچ کے ان کا جو ایٹیٹیوڈ ہے وہ بڑا عجیب سا ہوتا ہے. اس میں جب سائیکیٹرسٹ سے, تھراپسٹ سے آپ بات کریں, which is very important, Valerie, which we need to consider also, جب وہ کہتے ہیں heal your inner child, آپ 50 سال کے بھی ہیں, آپ 60 سال کے بھی ہیں, وہ بچپن میں جو آپ پہ ضربیں لگی ہوئی ہیں, وہ ضرب آپ کو ہیل نہیں ہوتی اور بار بار آ کے ہانٹ کرتی ہے. اور وہ جب ہانٹ کرتی ہے تو وہ آپ کی پرسنالٹی کو افیکٹ کرتی ہے کہ نہیں کرتی؟ آپ نے باہر کام کیا, آپ لوگ میس میڈیا کمیونیکیشن کے اندر تعلیم حاصل کر رہے ہیں, کچھ انٹرنشپس کر رہے ہیں, کچھ کام کر رہے ہیں. ابھی اون صاحب نے جیسے بات کی کہ ان کے ساتھ جو لوگ تھے ان کو وہ کس طرح ڈسٹریکٹ ہوئے اور اپنی جانوں سے ہاتھ دھو بیٹھے. ہر گلی, ہر محلے میں, افشا نے جیسے بتایا, ہر نکر کے اندر یہ سٹوری ہے. اچھا, اب بڑی انٹرسٹنگ بات ہے, کل ہم پولیس بیورو گئے ہوئے تھے اور سارے ڈی آئی جیز اور ساری آئی سی ٹی کی پولیس والے تھے. ایشوز وہی ہیں, ایشوز آپ کو بھی پتا ہے, ایشوز مجھے بھی پتا ہے کہ نہیں پتا؟ I'm not talking to the walls, I want interactive people, come on, reply. ایشوز پتا ہے کہ نہیں پتا؟ ایشوز پڑھائے جاتے ہیں کہ نہیں پڑھائے جاتے؟ ایشوز میڈیا پہ ڈسکس ہوتے ہیں کہ نہیں ہوتے؟ ڈسپائٹ ہم کہیں کہ ہمیں سیاست والے ٹاک شوز نہیں اچھے لگتے, مگر میڈیا پھر بھی ایشوز آتے ہیں. زینب کیس آیا, اٹھا, اب ہم اس طرح کی اور زینب پیدا نہ ہو, کل کو خدا نہ خواستہ کوئی بشرا, کوئی عائشہ نہ پیدا ہو. What are we doing for that? Are we waiting for another case کہ ہم وہ آئے تو پھر ہم لوگوں کو ایجوکیٹ کریں اور سینسٹائز کریں؟ ہم نے اس کے اوپر لاز بھی بنا لیے, زینب لاز بھی آ گئے. اچھا, قوانین موجود ہے, کانسٹیٹیوشن کیا کہتا ہے آپ کا؟ سب سے بڑی بات جو مسنگ ایلیمنٹ میں نے آج کے پورے دن کی ٹاک کے اندر دیکھی کہ مسنگ ایلیمنٹ کیا ہے. آپ کا کانسٹیٹیوشن کہتا ہے تعلیم ہر بچے کا حق ہے, بنیادی حق ہے. ہم اس کی امپلیمنٹیشن نہیں کر رہے. تعلیم آپ دیکھیں, مدرسے کے اندر چائلڈ ابیوز ہوتا ہے, ماں باپ کیوں چھوڑ کر آتے ہیں بچے کو مدرسے میں؟ خوراک کے لیے, تعلیم کے لیے. اگر وہ چاہے قرآنک تعلیم ہو یا دوسری تعلیم ہو, کیونکہ ان سے اپنے بچے کا پیٹ نہیں بھرا جا رہا. اب آپ کے پاس کس چیز کی کمی ہے؟ بورڈنگ سکولز نہیں ہے, گورنمنٹ سکولز میں داخلہ نہیں ہے. جو ہم نے بات کی, دوسری لاسٹ بات جو ویلری نے یہاں پہ کھڑے ہو کے بات کی, پاپولیشن کی. کیا آج دن تک بنگلہ دیش نے اپنی پاپولیشن کنٹرول کر لی, ایران نے اپنی پاپولیشن کنٹرول کر لی, ہم نے فتوے بھی دے لیے ان ممالک نے, وہ بھی اسلامک ممالک ہے. ہم نے کیا کیا؟ ہم اس کو کنٹروورشل ایشو بنا لیتے ہیں. اب سیلاب آیا, ایک ایگزامپل ہے, ہم نے کہا سب سے بڑی کلیمٹی ہے اور آتی رہے گی, ہم آنکھیں نہیں بند کر سکتے, کلائمیٹ چینج کا ایشو ہے. جب سیلاب آیا, آپ ایوریج گھر دیکھیں کہ ایک کپل کے کتنے بچے, 8-10 ایسا ہی ہے. کوئی آپ نے لاجیکل غریب گھرانہ دیکھا ہے جہاں پہ وہ کہے کم بچے خوشحال گھرانہ یا 2 بچے؟ ہم بچپن سے گرو کیے, ہم نے ٹی وی پہ کیا دیکھا, کم بچے خوشحال گھرانہ, ایڈ دیکھتے تھے, پاپولیشن پلاننگ کا ایڈ دیکھتے تھے. آج کبھی دیکھا وہ ایڈ ہم نے؟ کبھی بات کتنی ہم نے کوئی وہ دیکھا؟ پہلے ہر وقت بیٹ ہو رہا تھا, بار بار ہیمرنگ کر رہے ہوتے تھے کہ بچے 2 ہی اچھے, بچے 2 ہی اچھے. اب ہم نے اس کو کنٹروورشل کر لیا, اب ہم نے اس کو اسلامی رنگ دے دیا. اب جب فلڈ ہے, غربت ہے, اتنی زیادہ آبادی ہے, اور 2030 میں کتنی آبادی ہوگی ہماری, کچھ کسی کو کوئی علم ہے؟ جی تھینک یو ویری مچ, 30 کروڑ. اور 2030 میں پوری دنیا کی آبادی کتنی ہوگی؟ 1 ارب اور بڑھ جائے گی. 1 ارب میں ہماری کنٹریبیوشن کتنی ہے جی؟ which is quite substantial. So having said that کہ ہمیں ملٹیپل ایشوز کو ساتھ لے کر چلنا. جب ایک چیز میں ہم ایک گھر چلاتے ہیں تو ہم یہ تو نہیں کہتے بجلی کا بل کنٹرول کر لو, باقی کھانا پینا جس طرح مرضی کر لو. جب ہم منسٹریز چلاتے ہیں, گورنمنٹ چلاتے ہیں, تو پیرالل چلاتے ہیں. So they are intertwined, all these issues. چاہے وہ پولیس ہے, اکیلی افشا بھی کچھ نہیں کر سکتی. کیا ہم نیبرہڈ واچ کی بات کرتے ہیں کبھی؟ کیا ہم نے کبھی نیبرہڈ واچ کی بات کی؟ آپ جس گلی محلے کالونی میں رہتے ہیں, آپ کو جب نظر آ رہا ہے ایک بچہ چھوٹا کسی نے رکھا ہوا ہے اور وہ سودا لینے کسی سٹور پہ جا رہا ہے, آپ کو صبح آفس جاتے ہوئے تو وہ نظر آ رہا ہے. کیا آپ نے ان کے دفتر کال کر کے کہا, یا پنجاب بیورو کو جس کی نادیہ نے بات کی, کیا آپ نے ان کو فون کر کے رپورٹ کیا؟ Where is your civic sense and your responsibility? Tell me. Are we not as guilty as others? Or shall we always be finger pointing, or do we think as Pakistanis we are doing our responsibility? What do you say? Yes or no? So جس طرح کہا 1122 جو بھی نمبر ہے ہیلپ لائن کا, تو ہم نے کسی کے گھر میں گئے ہم مہمان بن کے, اور واپس آئیں اور کال کریں کہ ان کے گھر میں تو ایک چائلڈ لیبر کام کر رہا ہے. ہماری بھی تو کوئی ذمہ داری ہے. اب وہ بچہ تو پھنسا ہوا ہے, اس کے ماں باپ نے سال کے پیسے لے لیے اور بچہ دے دیا 1 سال کے لیے. ایسا ہی کرتے ہیں نا ہمارے بہت جاننے والوں کے گھروں میں, اور فخریہ ہم کہتے ہیں کہ ہاں پیسے لے گئے ماں باپ, اب 1 سال کے بعد آئے. اچھا, اب اس کے اوپر وہ بچہ تو پھنس گیا. ہم جو نادیہ نے بات کی کہ یہ بچے کا تو المیہ ہے کہ اس نے اپنے کندھوں میں وہ اکنامک رسپانسبلٹی نہیں اٹھانی, لیکن وہ کون سمجھے گا اس بچے کی بات؟ وہی ماں باپ جو بیچ کے آ رہے ہیں اپنے بچے کو, وہی ماں باپ وہ بچے پہ بچہ اس لیے پیدا کر رہے ہیں کہ یہ ہمارا ہیلپنگ ہینڈ ہے, اکنامکلی ہمیں سپورٹ کرے گا, جتنے ہاتھ ہوں گے اتنا کمائیں گے, ہم بڑھاپے میں بیٹھ کے چرس پیئیں گے, منجی پہ بیٹھ جائیں گے, وہ لا لا کے بچے بیچتے جائیں گے, سال کے بعد ہمارے پاس پیسے آتے. ایسا ہی ہے نا. سو دیز آل سوسائٹل ایشوز وی آل نو, بٹ ہم نے اپنا اپنا رول پلے کرنا ہے, جس میں مینشن کیا نادیہ نے بھی, افشا نے بھی, میڈیا کی امپورٹنس. میں ہیرسمنٹ ایٹ ورک پلیس پہ کام کرتی ہوں جی. جب میں نے 4 سال پہلے یہ ادارہ جوائن کیا تو 8 سال میں 482 کیسز ہوئے تھے ٹوٹل, 8 years. 2010 میں ادارہ بنا, 4 سال میں we have crossed the barrier of 5,000. 5 cases in a month ہوتے تھے, ہم 100 cases in a month کر رہے ہیں ڈسپائٹ کووڈ, 2-3 years of کووڈ. تو کیسے بڑھ گئے؟ کشمالہ کے آنے سے ہراسمنٹ بڑھ گئی یا رپورٹنگ بڑھ گئی؟ رپورٹنگ بڑھ گئی. کیوں بڑھ گئی؟ اعتماد بڑھ گیا. کیوں بڑھ گیا؟ کہ جب آئیں گے تو ریلیف ملے گا, چکر نہیں لگانے پڑیں گے. کیوں اعتماد بڑھ گیا؟ کہ ہماری جیب سے وہ خواتین کو یہ یقین آیا کہ جب ہم جاتے ہیں تو ہمیں پیسے خرچ کرنے کی بھی ضرورت نہیں ہے, وکیل کی بھی ضرورت. ہم جاتے ہیں, آن لائن کمپلینٹ کرتے ہیں, दूर अफ्तादा इलाकों से हम अगर नहीं पहुंच सकते तो हम स्काइप के ऊपर हमें हेल्प मिल जाती है। हम अगर एक कंप्लेन करते हैं, विथड्रॉ करते हैं, तो वी डू नॉट लेट देम विथड्रॉ इट, जिसकी आपने बात की अफशा साहिबा, कि हम जो बात करते हैं कि आउट ऑफ कोर्ट सेटलमेंट कर लें, हम नहीं होने देते। हम बिठाते हैं सामने, हम कमिटमेंट लेते हैं, हम एश्योरिटी लेते हैं, और फिर विक्टिम को ये पता होता है, कंप्लेनेंट को, कि मैं जॉब लूज नहीं करूंगी। वी गिव देम द श्योरिटी कि आपको अगर कोई टॉर्चर करे कि जी आप फॉस्पा के पास गए थे, तो आए आपको मजा चखाते हैं, आपको तो उठा के क्वेटा या बलोचिस्तान ट्रांसफर कर देते हैं। वी कीप अ ट्रैक ऑफ देम, they keep coming back to us, keep telling us that we are victimized or we are not victimized. So we keep a follow up for that, so that they have that security कि कल को हमने तो केस कर लिया, उसके बाद अब हमारी विक्टिमाइजेशन शुरू होगी, and we'll ultimately lose the job. Now this happens more so in the government sector, or we can say in the private sector, which is like banks, established franchised organizations. However, private sector is much huge, way huger than we think. Agencies ले लें, traveling agencies ले लें, supermarkets ले लें, you go to Centaurus, you go to these brands, you see women working over there. However, the awareness has come, at least I can say we've tried our best, कि अब Islamabad में everybody knows. There was a point, not even the law implementers, like the judges didn't know about this law. Police didn't know about this law. People didn't know, there was no awareness. So the most important thing is to share by word of mouth, to share, go follow FOSPA on Instagram, Twitter, we are on Facebook. You just go to our website, it is self-explanatory. Our day-to-day proceedings are shown over there. You can share it with your friends, your cousins, your families, whoever is going under harassment, you can guide them through. So 5,000 cases, I would say they are not 5,000 cases. I would say we have rectified 5,000 institutions. When a case comes from one institution, the message is sent across in the whole institution. No harassment, no more harassment. We have fired one of our ambassadors who was serving in Italy. We dared to fire a DIG police. We dared to fire DG Pemra. We dared to fire, keep on asking, and I'll keep on telling you on different levels, a CEO and a CFO of a very big bank. So for harassment at workplace, this is how people had faith in our organization and started coming to us. So what I'm saying is that it's not only when we will give protection to the women at workplace, when they would work themselves, they would want their children to go, not to go to work. They would want their children to go to the schools. We talk about microfinance banks. This is how they are also included in this work. They help the women, they give them the loans. Women become entrepreneurs, they start their own businesses. When they are making decent money, they would not send their kids for beggary or to work somewhere. They would send their kids to the school. So here comes the responsibility of each of us. So I would say, it's not only me, I'm doing my part of the job. You have to do yours. It's not that only people sitting across the table here or the international organizations, it's their job only. It's each one of us. The journalists, they've played a major role in reporting. And I think they need to do much more, which, as Onsab mentioned here, that they cover the events and not the issues. That was a very important line, I think, which he said. So they have to be trained to bring the issues up again and again and again. And I would say, like 8th March is the International Women's Day and 12th of February is National Women's Day. And if we can collaborate the children along with the women and the mothers, so we start celebrating and sensitizing from their 12th to the 8th, so that, you know, women, mother and child, they are kept together. And for their security, I think it's very important, as mother is the nucleus of the family. and the children which she produces to educate. Again, it brings the doctors as well, that mother and child health is very important. So, the more segments of society we try to gather together and we hold hands, I think only then we will be able to cure this disease of beggary, of sodomy, of child sexual abuse, of domestic violence, which we see all around and report.
Thank you.
Awareness and reporting is the key for today's session.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
Thank
much. And keep coming to FOSPA if you feel harassed or any of your friends feel harassed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I would like to please call upon all of you to come on stage on the front. We are reaching the conclusion of this event. And one of the activities that we shared with all of you earlier when we explained what we did was the media competition. So before awarding the prize to the media winners, I would like to call on stage a young man, Omar Khan, please. Would you like this to come up here? And we have a lot of students in the room, basically, including students from Roots IVDHA. And the reason why we called Omar on stage, please could you join us there, is because Omar, who is in class A2 at Roots IVDHA, won the first prize of a global competition, International Human Rights Health Festival, for creating a human rights story, and he won the first prize out of 279 submissions from 52 countries. Yes. May I request, Omar, come in the center, and may I request Kashmala, Afshan, and Sarah to convey this certificate of acknowledgement to Omar. We're very proud of you, Omar, and keep it up. This is the next generation we're making. Thank you. And I would now like to work. So we had results announcements. So the first prize for the media competition to promote evidence-based, ethical, and quality reporting on child labor goes to Khalida Niaz, and it's a prize of 40,000 Pakistani rupees, and that's a woman who won the prize. Jo ke fakhar ki baat hai, well done. This is how we're going to bring the change. Come to us, please. Oh, I'm so sorry. Please, Mr. Armstrong from ILO, would you like to please join in on stage? This would have never been possible without ILO, please. And it's important to have a man, yeah? Also. Yes. Thank you so much. The second prize goes to Shahid Khan, 30,000 Pakistani rupees. See? We still practice gender equality. There is a man in the story as well. Well done. And the third trainee who won the prize is Fatima Nazish, 20,000 Pakistani rupees. Is Fatima around? Yeah. Fatima actually won another award even after that competition, not after the training. She has basically pocketed 2 awards. Thank you so much. Thank you so much indeed. May I please request the honorable guests to join their seats again? This is basically closing the event. On behalf of Saima Kadir, the Executive Director of Group Development Pakistan, who is very sorry, she would have loved to be there, but she is stuck in Malaysia and her plane had to be delayed, but she's thinking very fondly of you all. She's going to land in the middle of the night somewhere today. She thank you all for your participation, your commitment, and let's be there is a pledge wall outside. So please make sure that you sign this pledge wall. This is only the beginning of a process. We need more. Child labor is still very much there globally and in Pakistan. We need to do more. Kashmala Saiba, we remember this proposition of you to synergize for the 12th of February and 8th of March. Sir, from ILO, remember that. We need not forget this. And you students, youth and journalists who came there, thank you so much for being who you are, for doing this work. I invite you to please go on the left side, sign the pledge, and then Haiti is waiting for you. Thank you so much.